I thought I knew what love was. I had been married to Jessica for 6 years, and we had been trying to start a family for the last two. We were both in our early 30s, living in a cozy suburban neighborhood, and things felt pretty normal, at least on the surface. The world was filled with the kind of dreamy expectations that come with the idea of parenthood. We had our IVF treatments lined up, money saved, and hopefulness in the air. But even as we dove headfirst into this journey, I could sense something shifting. Little changes, nothing too alarming, I thought. Jessica became distant, her phone had become an unwelcome third wheel in our relationship, and I noticed her spending more late nights working or catching up with old friends. I admit, I brushed off my concerns. After all, IVF can be overwhelming. But as the months rolled on, my intuition started to scream at me. I can't pinpoint the exact moment the truth crashed over me like a rogue wave, but the signs were there, lurking in the shadows of our lives together. The turning point came one cold Friday evening. I had planned a nice dinner. At home for us, something simple but heartfelt: grilled chicken, roasted veggies, and a bottle of wine. I got home early, anticipating her arrival. I wanted to surprise her and show her that I was in this together. Instead, I found her phone lying on the kitchen counter, buzzing incessantly. Curiosity got the better of me, and I picked it up. It was a message from an unknown number. Something inside me twisted as I read, "Can't wait to see you tonight, just the two of us." My heart sank. I couldn't breathe. I scrolled through the conversation, and what I saw felt like someone had plunged a knife into my gut. There were flirty messages, plans to meet up, and the unmistakable tone of someone who was clearly more than a friend. My mind raced, and I felt an overwhelming mix of anger and disbelief wash over me. When Jessica finally walked through the door, I was ready. I confronted her immediately, throwing the phone onto the table between us. Her face dropped, and I could see the panic in her eyes. "What is this?" I demanded, barely keeping my voice steady. She tried to play it off. "Of course. Babe, you're overreacting. You know how people can be, it's just a joke." Her excuses tumbled out like a broken record, each one more pathetic than the last. She said it was an old friend, that they were just venting about life, that I was being paranoid. But I could see it in her eyes. She was caught and scrambling to spin a web of lies. I felt anger boiling inside me, but there was also this terrible sadness. I had trusted her completely, and here she was, lying right through it. I didn't even know how to process how deeply she had betrayed me, especially during such a vulnerable time. Here we were, supposed to be preparing for parenthood, and she was off having sex with someone else. It felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. Her attempts to deflect my questions only fueled my rage. I didn't care about her excuses. It was clear that the woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone who had made a mockery of everything we had worked toward. In that moment, I decided I wouldn't tolerate this. I was done playing the fool. The confrontation was electric, charged with raw emotions that crackled in the air between us. I watched Jessica's face morph through a series of emotions: fear, anger, guilt, and then defiance. It was as if I was watching someone I didn't even recognize. The woman who had promised to stand by me through thick and thin was now trying to save her own skin, and it made me sick. "Who is he?" I demanded, my voice steely. "Who is the guy you're sleeping with?" I could see her mouth open and close as if she were trying to form words, but nothing came out. She was caught in the act, and I relished the look of panic washing over her. "Look, it's not what you think," she finally stammered, her voice trembling. "I was confused. I was scared about the IVF. I thought you wouldn't understand." "Confused?" I scoffed. "That's your excuse. So instead of talking to me about your fears, you decided to sleep with someone else. That's your solution." I was done with her pitiful justifications. The betrayal ran deeper than I could have imagined, and I wasn't about to let her wiggle her way out of this. She shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting around, avoiding mine. "It was a mistake, a stupid mistake. I was just trying to feel something, to escape the pressure." "Escape? You think sleeping with another man is the solution to feeling overwhelmed? What about the commitment we made to each other?" My heart was racing with a mix of anger and heartbreak. I couldn't fathom how she thought this was going to end well for her. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I love you, I do, it just happened." Love, I echoed incredulously. If you truly loved me, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't have shattered everything we built together. I couldn't hold back the tears that threatened to spill. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make her feel the pain I was in. Instead, I felt hollowed out. The next few minutes were a blur of accusations and half-hearted pleas. I saw her attempting to twist my words, trying to make it seem like I was the unreasonable one. She was good at that, manipulating a situation to fit her narrative, but I was done listening to her lies. I grabbed my phone and called my mother. I needed to talk to someone who could ground me in reality. As Jessica continued to plead, I walked away, leaving her in the kitchen, her voice trailing behind me as I stepped outside. I felt the cold air on my face, and for a moment it was refreshing. It reminded me that I was alive, that there was still a world outside of Jessica and this betrayal. When I hung up with my mom, I turned back to face the reality inside the house. I needed to make some decisions. I couldn't go back to the way things were. Trust was shattered, and I realized that I didn't want to be with someone who could so easily betray our vows. This wasn't just about the infidelity. It was about the lies that had permeated our relationship. I walked back inside, my mind racing with thoughts. Jessica was still standing there, eyes wide, as if she were waiting for a miracle to save her. "What are you going to do?" she asked, her voice small and trembling. I took a deep breath, the weight of the world on my shoulders. "I don't know yet, but I do know that I can't stay in this marriage if we can't be honest with each other. I need time to think." Her response was immediate. "You can't just leave, we can work this out." But I was already on my way out the door. I couldn't stay in a place that felt like a lie. The cool night air filled my lungs as I stepped outside, my heart heavy yet oddly resolute. I knew I had a long road ahead of me, but I was determined to find my way out of this darkness. I would not let her betrayal define me. The next few days felt surreal, like I was walking through a fog. I had never imagined I would find myself in this situation, grappling with the aftermath of Jessica's betrayal. I moved through life in a daze, going to work, interacting with friends, and trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy. But inside, I was a storm of emotions: anger, betrayal, disbelief, and a profound sadness that weighed heavy on my heart. Jessica tried reaching out to me multiple times. Texts filled with apologies flooded my phone. "I'm so sorry," she wrote. "I never meant to hurt you. Please, let's talk." I ignored her messages, feeling like every word was a feeble attempt to manipulate me back into her life. I didn't trust her. I couldn't. Each apology felt like another lie waiting to be unearthed. After a week, I finally agreed to meet her to talk. I wanted to hear her out, to see if there was anything worth salvaging. We met at a small cafe, a neutral ground that had once been a favorite spot for us. As I sat down, I noticed how Jessica seemed to shrink under the weight of what she had done. Her eyes were puffy and there were dark circles under them from lack of sleep. I took a deep breath before speaking. "So where do we go from here?" I asked, my tone steady. "I want to fix this," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I love you and I made a terrible mistake. I promise it won't happen again." "Love, you keep using that word like it means something." I couldn't help but interrupt. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have gone behind my back. I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to understand what the hell happened." She looked down at the table and sighed deeply. I was overwhelmed and it felt like everything was crumbling. I didn't know how to cope. I thought maybe I could escape it for a little while. Escape? By having sex with another man? That doesn't even make sense. My frustration bubbled over. You don't just throw away your marriage because things get tough. You fight for it. I know, she pleaded, tears forming in her eyes. "I messed up. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just want a chance to make it right." "Make it right?" I laughed bitterly. "How do you plan to make this right? Trust isn't something you can just rebuild overnight. It takes years of commitment, and you've thrown all that away in a moment of weakness." We continued to talk, each word cutting deeper than the last. I could see her desperation, and it made me feel powerful yet conflicted. I wanted to rage at her, to make her feel the weight of her betrayal, but I also felt a part of me that still cared for her, that wanted to believe we could somehow get through this. After an hour of back and forth, I finally made up my mind. "I don't think I can do this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I need to step away from this. I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust you again." Jessica's face crumpled and she reached for my hand. "Please don't say that. I'll do anything. I'll prove to you that I can be the wife you deserve." But I pulled my hand away, feeling the weight of the reality settling around us. "It's not enough. I need to think about my future, about what I want out of life. This can't be my norm." As I left the cafe, I felt a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. I had made the decision to prioritize my well-being, yet it also felt like I was severing a lifeline. The life I had envisioned, a family, a future, was crumbling right before my eyes. In the days that followed, I began to think about what my life would look like without Jessica. The idea of living alone felt daunting but also liberating. I realized I needed to embrace this opportunity to rediscover myself, to focus on what I wanted, rather than what I thought I was supposed to have. Still, the emotional scars were fresh, and I found myself grappling with feelings of sadness and anger. I sought advice from close friends and family, people who knew me best. They were supportive, urging me to take the time I needed to heal and reflect. As the days turned into weeks, I began to envision a life without the weight of her betrayal holding me back. It was my chance to redefine what happiness meant for me. But even with the clarity of my decision, there were moments when I felt lost. I missed the good times, the laughter, the companionship, the dreams we once shared. Yet, I knew I couldn't ignore the reality of what had transpired. I was determined to move forward, even if the path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty. As the weeks passed, I found myself adjusting to this new reality, albeit slowly. I had moved out of our shared home and into a small apartment that felt stark and empty compared to the life I once shared with Jessica. Everything reminded me of her. Each corner of the apartment felt haunted by memories of us. I had to face the reality that I had built my life around someone who could so easily betray me. I started spending more time with friends who were supportive and understanding. They'd invite me out for drinks, or we'd binge-watch old movies at home. I even took up running, using the time to clear my mind and focus on my health. Every step was a small act of reclaiming my life, away from the turmoil that had consumed me. Still, the emotional weight of the betrayal lingered like a shadow, especially during quiet moments when I would catch myself wondering what might have been. Jessica continued to reach out, sending me messages filled with apologies and pleas for a second chance. One night, I received a call from her. "Can we please just talk?" She begged, her voice shaky. "I've been seeing a therapist and I want to understand what I did and how to fix it." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to hear her out to see if there was any truth to her desire for change, but another part of me screamed to keep my distance. "Jessica, I don't know if talking is what I need right now," I replied, feeling conflicted. "Right now I'm trying to focus on myself." "I understand," she said, desperation lacing her voice. "But I just want you to know that I'm sorry. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. I love you." "I need time," I said, cutting her off gently but firmly. "Please respect that." Hanging up, I felt a mix of sadness and relief. I knew that I had to stick to my resolve. I had to prioritize my healing. The truth was, I still loved her, but love wasn't enough to erase the pain she had caused me. I had to be realistic about what I wanted for my future. As the days turned into months, I started to piece together a new existence. I began exploring new interests, cooking classes, hiking trails, and even volunteering at a local shelter. I was rediscovering parts of myself that had been overshadowed by the desire to make my marriage work. With each new experience, I felt a little more empowered, a little more whole. One evening, as I was cooking dinner, I received a text from Jessica again. "I miss you. I'm doing everything I can to change. Please give me another chance." I stared at the message for a long time, contemplating how to respond. Part of me felt guilty for moving on, but another part of me knew I had to stay true to my choice. I typed back cautiously, "I appreciate that you're trying, but I'm still not ready to talk." The ping of her response was almost immediate. "I understand. I'll keep working on myself and I'll be here when you're ready." As days turned into weeks again, I settled into a new routine. I had come to terms with my emotional journey, learning to navigate life without Jessica. I still felt the occasional pang of sadness, but I also felt a growing sense of independence. I relished my time alone, finding comfort in the solitude that I had previously feared. Then one day, I received a call from my mother. "I think you should come home for a bit," she suggested. "It's been a while since we've had a family gathering. It might do you some good." I agreed. My family had always been my anchor, a source of strength during turbulent times. They had supported my decision to leave Jessica, and I needed that reinforcement. When I arrived home, the familiar warmth enveloped me. My mother greeted me with open arms, and I felt a sense of belonging that had been missing for far too long. As I sat around the dinner table with my family, I began to feel lighter. Laughter filled the air, and for the first time in months, I found myself smiling genuinely. My family picked up on my mood, and they encouraged me to share stories about my new ventures. I felt like I was slowly re-emerging, shedding the weight of guilt and sadness that had clung to me for so long. But even in this moment of joy, a part of me couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty about the future. I still had to confront the reality of my relationship with Jessica. Would I ever be able to forgive her? Would I let her back into my life? I realized that I had to face these questions head-on, not just for her sake, but for my own healing. As I drove back to my apartment after the family gathering, the questions swirled in my mind. I had come so far, but I also knew that I couldn't ignore the complexities of love and betrayal forever. The path ahead was still uncertain, and I needed to figure out what I truly wanted. Would I allow Jessica a chance to show she had changed? Or would I close the door for good and continue moving forward without her? I had no answers yet, but I knew I was on the right path, taking my time, learning, growing, and healing. Whatever decision lay ahead, I would face it with the strength I had found within myself. The weeks following my family visit felt like a turning point in my emotional journey. I had spent so much time healing and rediscovering who I was outside of my relationship with Jessica. I felt stronger, more confident, and even somewhat liberated. Yet, the question of whether or not to give Jessica another chance still loomed over me like a dark cloud. I continued to receive messages from her, each one more earnest than the last. "I've been working on myself," she would say. "I miss you every day. All I want is to prove to you that I'm serious about making amends." But each time I saw her name pop up on my phone, I felt the familiar mix of guilt and anger resurface. One evening, I decided it was time to confront this cloud hovering over my head. I sat down and wrote out my feelings, trying to sort through what I wanted. I was still angry about what she had done, but I also remembered the good times we shared, the laughter, our dreams for the future, and how much we had cared for each other. Was it possible to forgive her, to allow her the chance to show she had changed? After several days of reflection, I finally reached out to her. "I think we should meet," I texted, my heart racing. I felt a mix of dread and anticipation as I waited for her response. It wasn't long before she replied, bursting with enthusiasm. "Yes, I'd love to. When and where?" I suggested the same cafe where we had talked before. It felt fitting to return to the place where everything had unraveled. As I arrived, I felt a knot in my stomach. I wasn't sure if I was ready for this, but I knew I had to face it head-on. When Jessica walked in, she looked different. There was a sense of determination in her stride, a stark contrast to the broken woman I had seen before. She approached me, and for a moment we locked eyes. The tension in the air was palpable. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, her voice steady but laced with nervousness. "I really appreciate it." "I need to know what you've been doing to change," I replied, cutting straight to the point. "Why should I believe you now?" She took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "I've been in therapy for the last few months, and it's been eye-opening. I've been working on understanding why I made the choices I did. I want to be a better person, not just for you, but for myself." I listened carefully as she spoke, trying not to let my emotions cloud my judgment. "What have you learned?" I pressed, wanting specifics. I realized that I was trying to escape my fears about parenthood and the pressure of IVF, she explained. "I thought a fling would make me feel alive again, but it only made things worse. I know that I need to communicate better and be more honest about my feelings." Her words resonated with me, but I couldn't shake off the skepticism lingering in my mind. Talk is easy, Jessica. What actions have you taken? How do I know this isn't just another manipulation? Her expression faltered, but she quickly regained her composure. I've distanced myself from the people who were toxic influences in my life. I've been focusing on my mental health and my relationship with myself. I want to earn back your trust, but I know it's going to take time. I took a moment to process everything. It was encouraging to hear her speak of change, but could I truly believe in it? The hurt was still fresh, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to reopen that door. Look, I appreciate you being candid with me, I finally said. But I need more than just words. I have to know that you're serious about this. I understand, she replied, her eyes pleading. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I'm willing to put in the work however long it takes. I just want the chance to prove it. For the rest of our conversation, we talked about our feelings, our fears, and what a potential future together could look like. I could see a flicker of the woman I had fallen in love with, but the memories of betrayal loomed large in my mind. Eventually, I had to be honest with her. I can't promise anything right now, I said. I need to think about what I want and whether I can truly forgive you. I can't go back to what we had before, it's too painful. Jessica nodded, her expression a mix of understanding and disappointment. I get it. Just know that I'll be here, ready to show you that I've changed. I love you and I'm not giving up on us. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of clarity. I still had a long way to go, but I was finally making progress. In confronting my feelings about our relationship, I wouldn't rush anything. I would take the time I needed to evaluate whether I could trust her again. In the days that followed, I focused on my own growth. I reached out to friends, sharing my experience and getting their perspectives. They encouraged me to trust my instincts, reminding me that love should never come at the cost of self-respect or self-worth. I also started to envision what a future could look like if I chose to let Jessica back into my life. It was a daunting thought, but also one that held promise. I knew I had to be true to myself, to prioritize my well-being in all of this. But I also understood that the possibility of love doesn't always fade, even when it's been tested by betrayal. As I moved forward, I reminded myself that healing takes time, and sometimes it means walking down paths we never thought we'd have to face. Whether it meant rebuilding our relationship or choosing to move on for good, I was finally ready to navigate this journey with my eyes wide open. As the weeks turned into months, I continued to navigate my feelings and experiences with Jessica. I was making strides in my personal journey, focusing on self-discovery and reclaiming my life. The lingering shadows of betrayal still haunted me, but I was learning to confront them rather than let them define me. I agreed to meet with Jessica once a month, an arrangement that allowed us to check in with each other without diving too deeply into what we once had. Each meeting felt like a delicate dance between hope and caution. She was committed to her therapy, and it showed in her demeanor. She was more open and honest, sharing her struggles with vulnerability and her efforts to improve herself. During one of our meetings, she surprised me with a heartfelt gesture. "I wanted to give you something," she said, pulling out a small journal from her bag. "I've been writing down my thoughts and feelings, especially about us. I thought maybe you'd want to read it so you can see how committed I am to changing." I took the journal from her hands, feeling a mix of gratitude and skepticism. "I appreciate this, Jessica, but I need to remind you that words are just words. Actions matter." "I know," she replied, her voice steady, "and I'm ready to show you that I mean it. I just hope you can start to see me as someone worth trusting again." I spent the next few days reading through her entries. Her honesty struck a chord within me. She wrote about her realizations, her fears, and the guilt that weighed heavily on her conscience. It was raw and vulnerable, and for the first time in a long time I felt a flicker of hope. Still, I couldn't ignore the reality of our situation. I needed to be realistic about our relationship. I started reflecting on what I truly wanted. Was I prepared to give her another chance, knowing how deeply she had hurt me? I understood that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means working through the pain together. After much contemplation, I decided to take a leap of faith. I reached out to her again. "I think it's time we try to move forward. but I need to set some boundaries and expectations." Jessica responded with a mixture of relief and excitement. "I'll do anything, just tell me what you need." We spent the next few weeks discussing what rebuilding our relationship would entail. We agreed to prioritize open communication, set clear boundaries, and check in with each other regularly. I also made it clear that I wouldn't tolerate any more deception. As we started to rekindle our relationship, I noticed a shift within myself. I was learning to let go of the anger and resentment, allowing space for growth. It was a delicate balance. Each step forward came with its own challenges. But through it all, I was actively giving myself permission to heal. Jessica was committed to proving herself, and I began to see glimpses of the woman I once loved. We went on outings, shared laughs, and even started discussing our dreams of starting a family again. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. One evening, as we sat under the stars in my backyard, I turned to her. "You know, I still have a lot of healing to do. I'm not going to pretend everything's fixed overnight. But I'm willing to give this a shot." Tears welled in Jessica's eyes as she nodded, her voice trembling. "Thank you for believing in me. I promise I won't let you down." In that moment, I felt a sense of hope blooming within me. It reminded me that love can be complicated, messy, and sometimes painful, but it can also be profoundly rewarding. As we navigated this new chapter together, I learned to embrace vulnerability, both in myself and in Jessica. It was a journey filled with ups and downs, but I realized that we were both committed to making it work. I also learned to put self-care first. I made sure to continue pursuing my interests and goals, recognizing that a healthy relationship starts with a healthy individual. It felt empowering to prioritize my own happiness while working on our relationship together. Though the road ahead was uncertain, I approached it with renewed optimism. I knew that trust takes time to rebuild, but I felt reassured by the progress we were making. In the end, I realized that sometimes our greatest lessons come through pain. I learned the importance of communication, honesty, and self-worth. These experiences shaped me into a stronger version of myself. Whether our journey together would lead to a future filled with love and family, or if I would ultimately decide it was best to part ways, I knew I had to stay true to myself. Whatever happened, I would be ready to embrace the next chapter of my life, armed with the knowledge and strength that I had gained through this tumultuous experience. And that was a victory in itself.